Yo, welcome back to another edition of the Men Who Cry podcast. Please like, subscribe, review, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. If you do not do these things, I have to assume that you are going to forget that tax season starts next month. Yes, it's December. Next month is 2026. Do your taxes. On today's episode, we will be talking about our number 2 moment for the butterfly moments of the last 25 seasons. We will have the Chiefs looking like it's over, talking about them. And we have a new producer that we will be introducing to you guys with our own segment later on the show. But first, we have to talk about the biggest story in sports, which is about one man's ego. That is Lane Kiffin. Yes, Lane Kiffin has made it official, even though it probably was official the moment it came out, that he is departing a playoff team and going over to LSU. So a couple things about this story, because it's got a lot of tentacles to it. I think that this story is big. And the only reason why it is a big story is essentially because of the college football playoff, right? Because essentially of greed, we have now made it so that we need to debate whether or not a 3-loss team in Texas should get into the playoff. Greed explode in this kind of way. We are now having this 12-team playoff. And in it, we are going to see Ole Miss get in and now be the first team to really get into the playoff without their head coach. And it is such a story that is so college football that it's not even funny. I'll just talk about the schedule at first. Yes, there's no good way to do this, right? Before the playoff, guys were getting left before the bowl games, right? The big bowl games that I just mentioned before, and everyone would kind of get up in arms about like, oh, how is this coach leaving this team for the bowl games, yada, 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 right? That's all well and good. College football schedule is what it is, right? This whole ordeal is about Lane Kiffin because there was a way that Lane could have coached the team and have left LSU, went to LSU or Florida, which we will get to Florida in a second, and just be a normal day. But because this is Lane Kiffin, this is how it goes, right? They had been one of the doormats of the SEC, and Lane Kiffin turned them around to be a legitimate national championship contender, right? This is their best season that they ever had, ever. They're going to finish with their highest ranking ever, whenever this season comes to an end for them. And he basically said, kick the deuces, I'm out. And here's the biggest problem, I would say, with Lane Kiffin's journey or travels, as you would be, right? He has essentially spanned completely different eras of college football, right? So now he is kind of really the last guy standing in an era of the NIL, because there's no Pete Carroll, there's no Nick Saban, there's no Les Miles, like all these Mac Brown, if you want to go all the way back. A lot of these like coaches that would kind of like be bigger than the game itself, they're all gone, and Lane is kind of, I wouldn't say the face of college football per se, but he is probably the most well-known entity right now that's in college football, even more, even more than Kirby Smart, because as good as Kirby Smart is, I never feel as if Kirby Smart is the level of persona that I think a Nick Saban was, or even a Lane Kiffin is. And now he has put himself in a situation where this almost has to be his last stop, right? Because as all the coaches that I've named already before you, they've won national championships, right? And they essentially have a home, right? Nick Saban coached a couple of different teams. He coached at LSU, he coached at Michigan State. But when you think of Nick Saban, you think of Alabama. When you think of Les Miles, you think of LSU. Even when you thought of Brian Kelly, I would argue you thought about Notre Dame. Urban Meyer, you thought about Florida, maybe also Ohio State. But these guys had homes, right? And this is something that Van Lathan said on his pod, where he said him kind of always being the hot girl at the club, like, you gonna get old soon, and that dance record is gonna stop. So as much as you've been this hot commodity for so long, and you've been basically whoring yourself around the SEC, this has to be your home. And this has to be the place that you complete the task at hand. Again, he's never won a division. Now, divisions don't really matter anymore in college football, but he's never gotten to the championship game as a head coach. And obviously, he's never won the championship in any conference he's played in, major conference, I should say. And he's never won the national championship. The standard at LSU is to win the national championship, right? And I don't know how long he will have to do so. Because we're in this new era of NIL, before, I would say even SEC fans would think, okay, you're going to need about 3 to 4 years really to kind of get things cooking. But with Kiffin's bravado, I would say, and true arrogance, and the fact that he is a guy that we now live in the NIL world where I would not be surprised if, I don't know, a third, a fifth of the players who still have eligibility at Ole Miss just go to LSU next year. And you're also in Louisiana. Like, you could throw a rock and hit a 5-star recruit, in that state. The expectation is going to be super high, especially with a 12-team playoff where, again, we are talking about a 3-loss Texas team getting in. They lost to Florida. Okay. So I'm not saying that next season LSU should be the favorite to win, but they damn sure better make the playoff, or it's going to look real interesting. And I think the reason why this is all such a college football conversation is, are we sure that Lane Kiffin's a better coach than Brian Kelly? Like, Brian Kelly got to a national championship game. He lost it, got smacked, but he won it. He got to a national championship game. He's been to the playoff before, right? He got smacked in a lot of the playoff games he played in, but still, his resume so far, again, he's older, is way better than Lane Kiffin's. It's not even close. And he couldn't hack it down there. So is that more of a fit issue because Brian Kelly had never really coached down in the South before, whereas Lane Kiffin has obviously been a coach, like I said before, in Tennessee and obviously at Ole Miss. So we'll see. I think Lane is, despite all of the mud that I might have slung on his name, I do think he is a great coach. I think he has the ability to win a national championship. I am curious to see if he will stop having a wandering eye and focus on just being a college football coach and just learn how to, do the whole winning thing. Speaking of winning, sliding all over now to the pros, we have what looks like to be the first time that we will have the Kansas City Chiefs missing the playoffs. Yes, the Kansas City Chiefs are 6-6. They're 500, and they are currently sitting outside of the playoffs of the AFC in what would I surmise so far as the game of the year. The game between the Chiefs and the Cowboys was an excellent game, and it was on Thanksgiving. I don't have the numbers for that game. I would believe right now that game is going to be the highest rated game, regular season game of the season. Everyone was watching. Everyone's home to watch. It's the Cowboys. It's the Chiefs. Probably did stupid amount of numbers rating wise. But the Chiefs lost again, and they are now, in my belief, going to miss the playoffs. And it is one thing for them to miss the playoffs and for it to just be such a colossal failure, honestly. But it is a bad way for them to go down. Yes. Seeing in the chat now, Kiara is saying they lost 31-28 on the road to the Cowboys. And I've talked about the Chiefs a lot this year in the sense of the idea of a dynasty, right? In the sense of like how hard is it to do stuff. And I just feel as if we don't take into account just like how physical football is. Like I think some of us know that like football is a physical game, but for the Chiefs, these are guys that are playing. I mean, you're talking about 20 to 21 game seasons, and I'm not even counting the preseason or training camp, right? That's a lot of hitting your body's taking. And while you might think, oh, guy is 27, that's years of getting your bell rung by your own players in practices and the opponents when you play in the games. I think that it's done for them, right? The path for them to get into the playoffs is so small. Jerry Jones once had this line. It's like circumcising a mosquito. That is how it's going to be for the Chiefs to try to actually get into the postseason. I do not see them actually getting in. And the bigger thing of what this kind of brings up is the fact of how is this team going to revamp itself? Because while I do not feel like this team is age-wise old, I think a lot of their players on the team have played a lot of football. A lot of football. And I think it's honestly caught up to them. And well, I think so long as you have Patrick Mahomes in his prime, you're always going to be a contender to win the Super Bowl. This right here was the biggest reason why I did not feel. So I do believe that they will miss. I do believe that this will be their time to be out of it. But I don't think, and I do think that this will kind of stymie the way that Mahomes will be able to try and catch Brady. Because I do not think that that is going to be a foregone conclusion as it was thought about the first couple of years that when he came into the league and they were just in the Super Bowl year after year after year after year after year. All right. So, as you guys will not know, because I've never told you guys this, I've been on a search for a producer because this was a very much self-made show by me and my idea. And I also have a job and I'm also very tired at times. So I had to add on Kiari. If you want to turn on your camera and put on your mic, how are you doing?
Hey everyone, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. We're recording this on Monday. Mondays are always a interesting day to record these because I do work, but it's when all this football stuff is done. But we are adding a new segment to the show. Um, and Kiari will be on to talk about whatever she wants to talk about, and I'm going to be here to respond to it. So this will be the very first one. We will see how this one goes. And I'm confident in it. I'm confident in it. It's going to be great. But yeah, Kiara, take it away. What do we have to discuss now?
Yeah, I mean, it's so much going on with Lane Kiffin that I don't feel like people are not really acknowledging, but we're gonna get to that to this set because that's like a real meaty one. But I also want to talk about like people who missed their chance, because the Super Bowl is literally around the corner, but also about people who are just not hitting the mark when it comes to this season. And I want to start off with like the Detroit Lions because that
Hmm.
window quietly closed. And my whole thing is just kind of like they went from like the up and coming team to like skirt, not no more. And the door slammed right in their face and they're like falling apart. So initially, what are your thoughts about that?
I should also know Kiari lives in Chicago, but I don't know if you actually like the Bears. You don't like the Bears. Either way, it's fascinating because I don't know if you remember when they lost to the 49ers 2 seasons ago in the NFC Championship game. Dan Campbell, their head coach, who I love, came out and said that, you know, you might never get here again. Well, we have to just keep trying because they blew a 17-point lead um, in that game. Would they have beaten the Chiefs that year? Who knows? But that was their opportunity to get the Super Bowl. And since then, last season they were 15-2. They had the best offense going, and they lost again at home to the Commanders. And I think with teams that don't have um, superstar quarterbacks, right? Lamar, Joe Burrow, Pat, Josh Allen, those like really, really elite guys. the idea that you are just a lock to make the playoffs every year, I don't believe is going to be the case, right? It's ironic because as of right now, of those guys I just mentioned, one of them is currently in the playoffs in Josh Allen. So that theory is going to be very tested. We're in a very odd year. But my point is like it used to be like you got Brady, you're in. You got Pat, you're in. You got Peyton Manning, you're in. The only
But I
real I would
feel
say
like
go ahead.
sorry, but I just feel like, we're talking about the Brady. I was about to combine Brady and Peyton's name into one, but like you're talking about the Brady and the Peyton and all these people, they're getting old. You know what I mean? And like it's heavily reliant on them, right? And I feel like that's why there's so much chaos happening right now because there's so much reliance on this old glory, and it's like you need to find your new glory and like your new shake up to really like hold in. Like you can't rely on these guys who are on the verge of retiring or have retired or wherever the case, or on these old glory days that like they were in their prime. They're not in
Yeah. I
to me,
mean, that's kind of that's I'm sorry. Unfortunately, that's kind of what the Pittsburgh Steelers are kind of going through with Aaron Rodgers because he's looking old. But to the point of it is like I think unfortunately Detroit's window has closed because I just don't believe in Goff as one of these like truly elite guys. And the fact that they had their coordinator set up in place, they had Ben Johnson, who clearly looks like a really good head coach. I mean, we'll see. We've had head coaches have good starts to the years, and they've kind of gone by the wayside. But as of right now, I'm pretty sure he's going to win Coach of the Year. If they win the division, if not, are the number one seed in the conference. But yeah, I feel bad for Lions fans because as a Giants fan, the Giants have simply beaten the fandom out of me. So I just
Mhm.
don't care. Like they are so piss poor for the last 15 years. It's hard to really care. So I've always been like, oh, the Lions. I mean, I remember when the Lions used to get smacked up all the time. But when they got good, I was like, oh, I'm happy for Detroit fans because they're finally able to see this good product. And it's so crazy that like it just feel like it's gone, you know?
Mhm.
And I'm not saying that it's over for them, but like if you look at the NFC, if Caleb's going to be this guy, he's going to have to get a lot better. Jared Goff, I mean not Jared Goff, Jordan Love is in their own division, and let's see what Minnesota does. Just their division alone is going to be tough to try and get out and make the playoffs. I'm not even talking about getting to the Super Bowl at that point. So while I think this might be they might have missed their mark this season, I ultimately believe overall in Dan Campbell as a coach. I don't think missing the playoffs is the worst thing in the world. I don't think that Detroit fans should overreact. But man, it's going to be tough. Like you had two opportunities to get to the Super Bowl, and I think Lions fans, if they were honest with themselves, felt like they blew those two chances against the Commanders and against the 49ers, respectively. Okay, what do you have next?
Yeah, so thanks for your thoughts. Now we're gonna move on to the Minnesota Vikings. Like, cause again, messy, messy, messy o'clock over here. You know that like losing their QB like changed everything for them. And essentially it's like they're actually entering into a new era when Cousins walked to Atlanta, essentially. And that's also shocking in itself for some people to get their minds around. But essentially, it's like they're now relying on this rookie QB, JJ McCarthy. And
Mhm.
you, I mean, like with a rookie, you don't know if they're going to have a good day or a bad day. Like they have to learn the game, they have to learn, how to work with their team and to really become a leader fast. So, what is your thoughts about the Minnesota Vikings and if they're teetering the rebuilding stage of their team, or like the whole team as a
Well,
whole?
what's so funny about this is last season they had was going to be JJ's season. Watch JJ McCarthy a lot. He's terrible. And I think the issue is, and the reason why it's so hard for me to give him grace is not just because you had a full year. basically, like, obviously you were hurt, but like mentally you're locked in. You have enough time to learn the system. You had a full year to learn the system. You had a full training camp. And also, Kevin O'Connor is like, I would argue the best with quarterbacks. Either him, McVay, and homie in San Francisco. Like, they are the best when it gets to QBs and developing them and getting to move forward. So if you're not good with those guys, like, to me, that's a recipe of you being out the league. And the fact that he's been so bad, and it's not just bad, he's been reckless. Like, he's gotten himself hurt multiple times. And he's not super big, not super athletic. He's kind of like a quote unquote gamer in that way.
Mhm.
And he better thank Jim Harbaugh his lucky stars because he got him paid. Um, so I think the Vikings are also a team kind of like Detroit, where I think they're going to have good enough players to contend next year, compete for the playoffs next year. But they, to me, do not seem to be a Super Bowl contender, especially because I do not know where they're getting their quarterback, right? It doesn't really make sense to draft another quarterback after you just drafted this quarterback. And the only other quarterback that might be available coming up is going to be like maybe they have to trade for Mac Jones. Um, like that's kind of the waters they got to play in. And look, Mac Jones, listen, if you told me 2 years ago Sam Darnold was going to be on a 14-win team, and again on another team where he might win 13 games this year with the Seahawks, I want to believe you. So I don't think it is as dire as it is, because I think this is more of a JJ McCarthy issue than like an overall system of a team issue. So,
So what do you
but yeah.
say that Justin Jefferson, would get impatient because
Oh
JJ
no, he'll be fine.
is
He'll be
oh,
fine
so
because you know what
he
it
got
is.
impatient.
The one thing I realize, especially about football, is the one thing you just got to do to keep guys healthy and happy in the NFL is give them money. Like most things in life, give people money. So I think what will happen is, and you know what? While we are here, let me look up his contract because I don't know how much he's getting paid
Isn't he like
as
one
we
of the
speak.
like highest paid receivers as
He
at
is
the
one of the
moment?
highest paid receivers. Yes. So he is currently on a 4-year deal. He is currently on a 4-year deal. All right, so he just signed. The extension kind of just started. So he has 2 years left. Of course, you can always still get cut because every NFL player can get cut. But he's got 2 years left on his deal, right? He's 26 years old. I think doing what they did with Myles Garrett, basically, and basically being like, hey, let's add a couple years on the end of those deals for, I don't know, about 50 million. You cool with making $50 million there, Justin? Oh, you're cool with that? Okay, here you go. So I think that he is going to cause a stir. I mean, my man had 2 catches for 4 yards yesterday. This is the same guy that led the league in receiving last year. Like, I would
Mhm.
be hot. Okay. But I don't think he'll request a trade. Even if he does, I don't think the Vikings will give him one. And
Mhm.
I think what will happen is that he will have some money tacked on to him to make him feel good. Just exactly what happened with Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett was, I want to trade out of Cleveland. Oh, wait, you're giving me $100 million? I guess I'll stay. So no, I don't think this is actually gonna I don't think it's gonna be a big deal for
Okay.
the Vikings.
Alrighty, well, like the last thing I want to discuss and chat about is the whole Lane Kiffin of it all. But from like you mentioned about it a little bit from your earlier segments, but I want to talk about like the earthquake that nobody is even mentioning. Like, because Kiffin is very well known to change out the quarterbacks, do a whole new offense team, or like mix and match from people that he wants to work with. And I feel like it's just a couple of people that, is on the chopping block, if you will, because of this whole new move and this whole big deal. But it's also been expected that this was going to like happen. Like, I'm thinking about the QB coach, that's a
Mhm.
legend. I can't think of his name right now. Why am I Frank Wilson. I'm thinking about him.
Yes. Mhm.
will there be an actual personality clash, from, like, their styles and how they coach, how they communicate with the team? Um, I'm thinking about, like, maybe is Ness going to be like their possible breakout QB, or is it going to be like, will he transfer somewhere else? Like, these are just questions that I have because I just feel like no one's talking about like the staff and recruiting shakeup that Lane loves to do. And then no one's even talking about like, even the players that could be potentially at risk.
Yeah. To answer your first part about there being a personality clash, again, Nick Saban fired this man the night before a national championship game. Lane is not having anyone on his staff who he thinks will be more of a personality than him. I feel like that's a pretty easy call. But yeah, like that is also, I guess, an underlying story of this is kind of what I mentioned before is like this puts Ole Miss in such a bad spot because it's like, are there going to be players that are going to opt out? I would doubt that we would see players opt out of a playoff game. Again, I don't know. We have seen because I go back to the Christian McCaffrey, Leonard Fournette class. Those are really the first guys that opted out of bowl games, right? And then that was the real conversation of, um, is that good or is that bad and all sort of stuff. And that was really a little bit like right before the NIL era kind of came into play. We've never seen guys opt out of a like a playoff game. But again, we are in a pay for play, pay for hire mercenary kind of vibe. And it is one of those things where it's like, um, you need a different style of coach to coach this different style of era that we're in. So I think anything is on the table. I can see coaches being like, I'm out. I can see players opting out. I think right now there's like some reports on like who's going to stay on the LSU staff, who's going to eventually come. Would he take the quarterback Trinidad from Ole Miss? Will he come to LSU? We'll see. That's still going to be kind of up in the air. But I believe that Lane Kiffin just likes leaving cabals of problems.
I
And
mean, he's a mess. Like he's
oh
like
yeah, he's a mess.
like he's so messy. It's if
He's
Lane
allegedly dating his ex-wife again. Allegedly, I don't know
if
if
Lane
I don't know what
Kiffin
situation is that.
I compare Lane Kiffin's moves of like career rise to like the Real Housewives of like Atlanta or Potomac or even Salt Lake City, how it's like messy
They have
and
jobs.
huh?
They have jobs.
Yeah,
I thought their jobs were being housewives.
not anymore. It's a whole new world. That's not the point of
Aren't
this
like
podcast.
half of them in jail, or like most of them go to jail now?
I mean, like it's like the DUIs and some fraudulent charges, maybe some theft. Um,
Maybe some theft. Yo, these shows is crazy, man. Maybe
but
some
I'm
light
just
theft.
saying,
You gotta at least do like some major crime to get put in jail for theft.
like I'm
If I
just
stole fifty
saying.
dollars, I'm not going to jail for that.
Well, I'm just saying the lane of it all is giving real like reality television, BravoCon of it all messiness because he does like you just said it. He leaves bombs and he likes to take people with him and then leave people that he doesn't want. And that's gonna just shake up that whole, region when it comes to SEC, when it comes to this whole layout. Like he's a messy person. He may be good at his job, but man, I would not know how to handle dealing with someone like him, and I can't be my bubbly, outspoken self, and you telling me to mute my light, and I'm a legend in these streets? I don't know. Frank Wilson, I think, that might be a little rocky. And it's not
Yeah.
because Frank Wilson is like, it's all about me. It's just like he's a legend, so his name has clout. But I'm just saying, like, Lane, again, wants to be the center of attention and won't like that. So, yeah, I feel like it's going to be like a Real Housewives, or, okay, maybe not Real Housewives, maybe so opera-ish type of
No,
vibes going.
listen, you got it. I mean, like, I think the only people that Lane might relate to are those housewives on that show.
Yeah,
But yeah, like I think
Shane and Messi.
yeah, I think Lane is a yeah. It's just so crazy that like his this whole career now has just been like through this lens of it. But all right. Thank you so much, Kiari. I appreciate it. This
Yeah,
was a nice little segment before we close out.
yes, no worries.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Okay. And to close out for the show for you guys, we have the number 2. We finally got here, ladies and gentlemen. The number 2 butterfly moments of the last 25 seasons. If you are new to the pod, that's okay. Make sure you like and subscribe and review. But the biggest thing is that we cover the last 25 years, the butterfly moments of the last 25 seasons, meaning it doesn't have to be an actual play. It doesn't actually have to be a game. It doesn't have to be a statistical anomaly. It is simply just something that happened over the last 25 years that redefined sports in the way that we know it now, right? We're almost at the top. We got this one more to go through before we get to number 1. But number 2 is going to be, if you guys have been paying attention, I feel like this isn't that hard to guess. It's the Drew Bledsoe injury. Yes, Drew Bledsoe was the quarterback for the New England Patriots. Yes, he led them to the Super Bowl back in the 90s. They got absolutely destroyed by the Packers. And he was playing the Jets. The Patriots were 0-2 at the time. And he got hurt. He got his chest damn near caved in. This guy had just signed a $100 million contract, and he eventually lost his job to what was then known as a 7th round pick known as Tom Brady. Tom Brady came in. Tom Brady started pretty much the whole season. Even when Drew Bledsoe was ready to play, they were going to stick with Tom Brady. Drew Bledsoe actually came into a playoff game at one point to help win them a playoff game during that run. But the legend of Tom Brady might never have happened if he never got hurt. And I really also times think about sports as being these like kind of like watershed moments, right? Unless you are really, man, like a first round pick or a top 5 pick in the NBA, um, you got very little chances to prove yourself, right? Because this is a business at the end of the day. And if you're not producing and making the team money, they will move on from you. And I think about that time of Tom Brady finally getting his chance, believing for the whole, and it just shows that he was able to uh, work as hard as he can to become the player that he wanted to be, and be our number 2 moment, butterfly moment of the last 25 season goes down to Drew Bledsoe getting injured. So yeah, that's all the time that we have today on the podcast. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, review. Again, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. And I'll be back with you guys later this week. All right, everyone. Peace.